Hello everyone, and welcome to this next in our series of videos for Holy Week. We've been following Jesus each day through Holy Week using Mark's Gospel. We saw yesterday that the Tuesday of Holy Week is a busy day for Jesus. He has a lot to do. He does lots of teaching, speaking, tells many parables, answers many questions, some of them designed to entrap him. So after that, what does Jesus do on Wednesday? And the answer is, in comparison, not actually very much. Where it takes Mark more than 2 chapters to tell us everything that he describes as happening on the Tuesday, Wednesday only takes a small number of verses. It's a much quieter day. I think it's almost as if Jesus, after that long and busy day, needs some time to relax, to spend some time perhaps with his friends, to stay in Bethany where he's staying, and not to go into the city. A day to prepare himself for what's going to come next. And I think there's an important lesson for us there. In these times when we're worried, where we may be anxious, where we may be concerned about people that we care about, we still need to look after ourselves. We still need to take time off to look after ourselves. You'll hear the phrase self-care a lot, and I think that's particularly important just at the moment. So then what does happen to Jesus on the Wednesday according to Mark? Well, first of all, we hear that there's a plot afoot to kill him, that the chief priests and the scribes are looking for an excuse to arrest him. And so that's going on in the background, but again Mark uses what we talked about earlier, the sandwich construction. We hear about this plot and then we come back to that theme later after another story, and the story is of Jesus being anointed. Now this story in Mark concerns a woman who isn't named. We don't know who she is. In John's Gospel we're told that it's Mary, who is the sister of Martha and Lazarus, but in Mark's Gospel she doesn't get named. She takes a very, very expensive jar of perfume. This is something that is worth a lot of money. This is not a simple or easy gesture. This is something that's extravagant and over the top, to take this very expensive perfume and pour it onto Jesus. She anoints his head rather than his feet, and this prefigures, of course, what's going to happen later. It prefigures the death of Jesus. This is part of the symbolism. But it's an action of love. It's an action that's extravagant and over the top and unnecessary. Much as indeed in some ways what's going to happen to Jesus is an extravagant act of love. That sacrifice for all of us without exception. So it looks ahead to what's going to happen, and indeed to the death of Jesus. And then after this has happened, we return to that theme of betrayal. And we learn that Judas, who is one, of course, of Jesus' disciples, has gone to the chief priests and agreed to betray him. They're pleased about this, they're going to pay him, and so they now look for an opportunity to arrest Jesus, for Judas to carry out this act of betrayal. So a lot happens here to get us ready for what's going to happen next, and of course Thursday we have the Last Supper and then the arrest of Jesus. So the symbolism here of the anointing prefigures that. And we can ask ourselves, are we doing what we can to look after ourselves? Because if we don't look after ourselves, we aren't going to be able to help others. And we could also ask ourselves, what are we doing for Jesus? Are we capable of an act of outrageous generosity, such as we see here? Or do we think actually that there is a point to the argument that the money should be given to the poor? It's not as if giving money away to the poor is a bad thing. It's not as if that's another thing that Jesus actually tells us to do elsewhere. What are we doing in these times to look after ourselves, and of course to look after other people, and to follow Jesus to the cross and to the resurrection? So we'll be back tomorrow, but thank you for watching, and goodbye.